quick session around sort of goal planning, really, since it's the new year, and that's what a lot of people do. So I've got a quick question for you. How many goals did you set last year that really quietly died by February? Well, I can stick my neck out and say that a lot of you will have done just that. You'd have had some really, really big goals, and you'll have set them, and you just would have gone by the wayside by February, March or April. To be honest, it's not lack of motivation. It's because most goals are badly designed in the first place. So you're almost set up to fail before anything else, really. So a goal needs to be a decision, really, not a wish. A goal without a plan is just a hope in a business suit. That's an interesting saying, isn't it? Most people don't wear suits these days. So what do you think the 3 biggest mistakes people are when they are writing their goals for the coming year? Well, most people only talk through the goals, they don't commit to them. Most make too many goals. So that's trying to change everything at once. Or vague, I want to grow my business. I want to be more visible. Well, you need to be a bit more specific than that, really. And the other thing is, you don't tend to tell anybody about them. So you create all these lovely goals, these wonderful New Year's resolutions, you tell nobody about them, and that's why we all go by the wayside by sort of February, March or April. So it's about keeping people accountable. If your goal only exists in your head, you're already in trouble, really, before you even started. Nice to see some people joining. Hello. I'm surprised. I thought I'd be the only one on here on New Year's Day. But obviously not. Let's say hello to a few. There we go. So, I suppose, what does a good goal planning framework really look like? You need to think about the SMART framework. And I know it's old-fashioned, and I know you've probably heard it before, but that's specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. If you can write a goal out in that format, so I'd like to grow my business by 10 new clients by the 1st of April 2026. That's giving you a specific goal, a measurable goal, an achievable goal, a realistic goal, and a timely goal. So you've got all those set in. By the way, feel free to ask any questions at any time. It really is an open format Q&A. So ask away. That SMART principle really does work well, Also, don't plan too far ahead. Especially if your business is in the beginning of its life. Thinking too far ahead, the number of small businesses that I meet that have started out and they've not really thought about things and they've not planned, and you can see that they've started a partnership with 3 or 4 other people, and that's all fine and dandy when there's no money and nobody's achieving anything, and then 12 months, 18 months down the line, lo and behold, they're actually starting to do quite well. But what one of the 4 or 5 partners actually isn't really pulling their weight. But because they've no framework, no agreements in place, everybody's on a sticky wicket, really. You've got to plan, but you need to plan far enough in advance that you can make things achievable and realistic, really. So saying I want to be a millionaire by the time I'm 30, which is quite entertaining because I'm 53 now. is all well and good when you're 21, but how are you going to go about that? How are you going to do it? You know, it's easy to say, it's really quite difficult to do. You know, look to set sort of only one to three sort of priorities on a daily basis. Review them with somebody. Don't do them alone. Adjust them. If you don't achieve it, you know, if you want 10 new clients and you want that in the first week of January and you don't achieve it, don't abandon it. Revisit it. Adjust it. Why was it not realistic? You know, was the time frame too short? You go back to that SMART framework again around goals, really. So has anyone got any really sort of big goals for this year they want to share? I'd be more than happy to see someone else's goals rather than me just talk at a screen. No? Okay. So the secret weapon to keeping goals on track and achievable is accountability. So as a business coach, about 50% of what I do in a session is holding people accountable to the tasks that we set in the previous session. So it's to find that somebody, whether it's a paid coach like me, whether it's your mum, whether it's your dad, your brother, your sister, whether it's your best friend, whether it's your business partner, whether it's your bank manager, it doesn't really matter who it is, so long as they will hold you accountable and challenge you as to why you've not reached those goals. You've got to be challenged if you're going to be accountable. It's writing goals down is the easy part. Actually doing the work to make them achievable is something else altogether. Oh. Any questions off anybody? Please feel free to share any goals that you're working on at the moment for this quarter, for this year, for this half year, for this month, this week, if you want. No, there's no set rule book in creating goals, just like business planning, really. Okay. So, are you stuck? Have you been circling the same goals for months and months and months? If you have, just put stuck in the comments. You know, honestly, you're not alone. I have a goal to be a good golfer. I've been working on it since I was 30, and I still really shouldn't leave the driving range. My golfing skills really are atrocious, so I know I'm stuck on that. And eventually I'll figure that out probably when I retire, when I've actually got some time to dedicate some time to the game. It probably doesn't help that I'm left-handed and I play with right-handed clubs, but I mean, you know, so when I say I've got a goal, I have a long-term list that I would like to spend more time on the golf course. But that isn't really happening, to be honest. How many, in fact, I'll tell you what, just give us a hands up. How many of you are planners and how many of you are fly by the seat of your pants last-minute heroes? Because I must admit, I really like to write a plan and work a plan. And then review the plan, adapt the plan, and work the plan. But I think that's just the way I'm wired. I don't know about anybody else. So the last-minute heroes? Any of you long-term planners like me? No comments? Okay. Let's have a think. Goal planning. So good goal planning is about pressure. It's about direction. So it's a question of, in fact, the one tip I usually do about goal planning with my smaller businesses is when you've got, to quote the Americans, a mom and pop store, quite often they'll write goals for the business and have absolutely no consideration for the family. So, so opening longer hours just means mum and dad work longer. That means they see the children less. So I usually encourage that people sit down around the table together and actually sit down and write some goals, because, in fact, I'll give you an analogy. One of my oldest clients, was sat down with him. He was a family man, 3 children, sort of age from toddler to teen. And we sat down one day and wrote some really, really, really big, hairy, audacious goals for him. We were working a 15-year plan for him. And if I could tell you which industry he's in, you'd understand why it was that long. And 3 months in, he said to me, "This is great." He said, "But I'm just not seeing the family, and I'm getting a lot of complaints off my wife and a lot of complaints off me teenagers that I'm not around enough. But I'm putting all the money in the bank so they can all do the things that they want to do. But I don't think it's right. Well, I think we need to revisit this." So we actually had a whole coaching session round his dining table with his children and his wife and everybody there. And it was amazing how switched on the children were, that if, in order to encourage dad to hit a goal every Friday, they had a family reward. I suppose it's a little bit like training a dog, really. If you want the dog to sit, then you wait till it sits, and then you give it a reward. Well, it's the same with your goals. If you set a 15-year goal, that's a long time until you get there. But if you break that down into weekly chunks, when you reach those goals, if you can set yourself some sort of reward in that period, then you're more likely to want to reach those goals. Therefore, you are more likely to achieve those goals. So if you have a weekly award, a monthly award, a quarterly award, or in his case, certainly a 6-monthly award and an annual reward, the whole family went to Disneyland twice a year, it worked wonders for him, including, involving the family in how the rewards were calculated. So they had a big thermometer drawn on the back of his office door, on a whiteboard, thankfully. And every time he achieved one of the goals, they coloured in a part of that thermometer. And at the top of that thermometer, they went to Disneyland. It was so powerful for him to be able to involve the family like that. So don't be afraid of talking to your family about, these are the goals that I've got for the business and the family this year. And getting them involved in and getting them to buy into what you want to achieve. Because without them, you won't be able to achieve it. And I know certainly when I was younger, when we had family at home, there's no way I would have achieved what I achieved in life without my wife there to make sure that my son was fed, watered, had clothes on his back, that he went to football, and she did all the parent evenings and all the other things that I missed out on because I was out earning a living. Smart goals, involve the family if you're a small business. Don't be afraid of telling them when you failed. They will give you your motivation to get back up and get going again. If anybody wants any help in turning goals into actions, just drop me a DM. It's perfectly fine. Direct message. I'll more than happily have a 15-minute chat with anybody. Anybody got any other questions for me? Because I'm aware I've just flown through what I had jotted down. No? Okay. So, SMART goals, make them realistic, make them measurable. You know, so a goal that says, oh, I want to be an influencer. What does an influencer look like? It's not on my list, by the way. In fact, if anything, I'm more of a wallflower than an influencer. Thankfully, I look at myself now and I try not to look at the screen while I'm doing this because I don't like the look of myself on video or the sound of my own voice. But I must admit, you need to push yourselves. A goal without regular milestones is like approving a strategy with no budget. You know, so how many of you start your business with absolutely no idea about setting budgets, no reporting, no management of, oh, well, I'm going to spend this much on advertising this year, or this much on cars or vans or whatever your business is. Yeah, so any questions about goals, goal planning for 2026? No? You're a quiet lot today. Normally I've had some grief by now and people disagree with what I say. Because I'm not always right. Although I never admit that at home. But I'm not always right. No questions? Would anybody be interested in me making available a SMART goal guide that you can use on your own? So I've got one somewhere. I mean, it's only a question of tweaking it so it's not charity focused. And anybody particular? No? Well, what I'll do is I'll post a link to it. And if anybody wants it, they can download it. No? Anybody any questions for me today, business related? Whether it's starting a business, an existing business, doesn't really matter to me. No. Okay, it was going to be a short live today. Instead of the usual half an hour, it's only going to be 20 minutes. Anyone with any burning question? Look, don't be afraid. There's no such thing as a stupid question. There are lots of things in this world I do not know. And I have to ask questions. And I am sure there's lots of you who've got questions I don't know the answers to. But I'll tell you what, I'll probably find someone who has and I'll come back to you with it. No? Okay. Well, in that case, I am going to end today at 20 minutes, which is about 6 seconds away. So have a wonderful, happy new year. Enjoy 2026. I wish you all to have a prosperous and wealthy year. And if you're going to do that, tune in on a Thursday at 7 o'clock. And we'll go live with any Q&As or any particular subjects that I think I'll highlight on that particular Thursday. Because for some reason tonight no one's asking me any questions and it makes it really, really difficult to keep talking to yourself sat in a room alone. Anyway, have a wonderful new year and I shall see you all next week. Bye for now.